Katy, Texas was a fun stop. This was one of those things that wasn't even on our list. Our youngest daughter happens to be named Katy, and when she was little, Sonja would read her the Caboose that got loose story, and it was a story about Katy Caboose. And our daughters found this park when they were doing some research and found some stuff on Buc-ee's, which is a big gas station chain out of Texas. And they found this, and Katy was like, "Oh, I'd love to see Katy Caboose." So we diverted after we bought our new trailer down here and had to check out the actual Katy Caboose. So the MKT is actually the Missouri, Kansas, Texas Railway. And of course, KT is the assumption as to how Katy actually got its name. The area was settled in 1872 and the town was plotted in 1896, though it wasn't officially incorporated until 1945. The railroad actually started in 1894, and this depot was built in 1898, and it was an active passenger train depot till 1957. After that, it was boarded up and moved from its original location to a park in Katy, and it sat there from the 1970s to, I believe, the early 2000s, where it was moved to its present location, which I believe was in 2005. There was a neat elderly lady working the depot the day we were there. She was so full of information and history about the place, and she's just really a neat person to be around and just instant friends. She felt like she'd been in the family as an aunt or something for years, even though we had just met her. She had a lot of neat stories about the depot. What I really enjoyed about this depot is how much original equipment and furniture is still in this place. And according to the gal working the depot, this thing was boarded up when they closed it down, and it was left alone. And even though it was moved from its original location by the tracks to the city park prior to this, it was never opened up until it was moved to its new location. I mean, it's got the original levers to adjust the sign out front to tell the train whether they should go to the siding or not. It's got a training Morse code system along with the actual Morse code. It has the original logbooks. It's got the original benches for the waiting rooms. And yes, waiting rooms. This used to be a divided train depot from whites and blacks. And talking to the lady, of course, she'd been around a long time, and talked to some of the old timers that actually used the train in the 40s and 50s before it closed down. And according to her, they would come in to their appropriate side and get their tickets, but then nobody waited in the waiting room. They'd all go stand out on the docks together, waiting for the train to show up. It's just amazing how much original equipment. You look on the walls of the storage area, and that graffiti was written by people in the 20s, 30s, 40s. A lot of the equipment that was here in the storage room was left behind. That sign right there on the floor is the original Katy, Texas sign that hung on the depot when it was a functioning, operating depot. Now, I've been into a lot of depots, and this one had the most original equipment I've ever seen in a depot. It was really neat. Buc-ee's was one of our favorite gas stations to stop at. We found the gas pumps. I mean, other than right here, we pulled up to one that I didn't realize at first there was plastic bags on the pumps because it was out of service. That was the only out of service pump we saw in any of the Buc-ee's we went to. The pumps worked well. They were clean. Our truck liked the gas. We got really good fuel mileage from the gas we got from Buc-ee's. The restrooms, if you had to go in and use them, were very clean and large, and lots of spaces available. And I mean, like this place is their largest convenience store. This Buc-ee's in New Braunfels holds the world record for being the largest convenience store in the world at 66,335 square feet for their building, with 120 gas pumps out front. They say everything's bigger in Texas, and this definitely backs that up. It was fun to stop here, especially it being the biggest one. It's just amazing the amount of stuff you can get there, from snacks and actual meals to barbecues and clothes. And I mean, it's just amazing. It's like a department store, not just a convenience store. And we were taken aback by all the ice dispensers, and this was not all of them. There were some on the other side of the building we didn't even see. We definitely missed stopping at Buc-ee's. They're no further west than Texas. We found them in Georgia and Florida, and of course all over Texas. And we definitely liked stopping at Buc-ee's. We're possibly going to plan a trip back to the eclipse in Texas in 2014, and if we do, 2024, we'll stop at Buc-ee's. This was unfortunate. We stopped at Bunker Branding, and they were scheduled to be open this day, but there was a parade, so they closed so all their employees could go to the parade, so we missed out on that, but oh well. And then we went down to downtown San Antonio at night because of all the Christmas decorations they do on the Riverwalk. The Riverwalk was a development that when it was first proposed, it was not accepted very well. In 1926, there was a really bad flood that flooded the area. So they were looking at doing some flood mitigation planning. And one of the plans was to create a concrete canal downtown and build businesses around it. And at first it was not very acceptable, but then it slowly started happening in the 30s, late 30s, early 40s, and it's turned into this. It was neat. I've seen some videos of other people that have been here in previous years, and I've seen in previous years that they had more Christmas decorations up. And that's one of the big things we went down there at night to see, was the Christmas decorations. So that's kind of a bummer, but it was still neat. I've never been in something like that where it's an actual river that's been built up around like that so well. And then of course we had to walk downtown so we could see the Alamo. The Alamo had quite a few Christmas lights up in the area. And the unfortunate part was, being there at night, we weren't able to go inside the Alamo, but to see it at night lit up like this was really neat. So the original mission that was built in this area was built in the 1700s. It was abandoned in 1793 by the Spanish at that time, and then used by the military later. Of course, the Battle of the Alamo occurred in 1836. The building served as a hospital, a mission, military garrison, and grocery store, and a lot of it has been rebuilt over the years, and because of the amount of damage done during the battle. Then on to New Mexico. It's funny driving through New Mexico, we came across the VLA, the Very Large Array. It's an astronomical radio observation system comprising of 27 82-foot wide dishes. And it's just crazy to see how far out they span out in the middle of nowhere. There's even a rest area there so you can stop and check things out. And this is the courthouse in Roswell. We stopped in Roswell for a quilt store. And I like old architecture like that and thought the old courthouse looked pretty neat, so we got it. Smokey Bear Historical Park was one of those things that Sonja had on her list that she really wanted to do once she found out this existed. She's got an old stuffed Smokey the Bear that she got from her aunt. And her aunt had it when she was a kid, so it's a stuffed bear that's been around a long time. And he definitely shows that he's been loved. This park was established in 1976. The actual Smokey Bear program was created in 1944. And then in 1950, on May 4th, a fire started in the Capitan Mountains. And then a second fire, both believed to be human-caused, were started in the forest up in the Capitan Mountains, and they were propelled by up to 70-mile-an-hour winds. On May 9th of 1950, a burnt, injured bear cub weighing about 5 pounds was found in the woods, and they took him in, and he was actually flown down to Santa Fe to a vet in that area to be brought back to health because he had to be treated for his burns, and at first he wasn't eating, and they managed to get him eating and healed him up, and he was briefly named Hotfoot Teddy. But then, because of the newly established Smokey Bear program, he was renamed Smokey Bear. He went on to be flown to Washington, D.C., and lived out his entire life in Washington, D.C. as the actual, real, live Smokey Bear. And he really kind of made the whole program explode in popularity. There was a couple other Smokey Bears that were put in after his death, but they don't do that anymore. It was a neat park that really showed a lot of the history of the Smokey Bear program, and a lot about the firefighting techniques and training that's used to train wildland firefighters. Where we live in Oregon, there's actually a training facility, and a lot of the hot shots train and work in the Central Oregon area. So I'm somewhat familiar with some of this, but it was still neat to see the park and all the different aspects to the Smokey Bear program. And I know some people call him Smokey the Bear. That actually was in a song that was written about him to make the song kind of be in the right tempo. They added the in between Smokey Bear, but his name has always been Smokey Bear. A lot of neat memorabilia to see there, and it was a neat park. If I ever find myself in the area of of Capitan, New Mexico again, I will definitely stop again. That was a fun park to stop at. Kind of sad in a way that after Smokey Bear died, they transported him from Washington, D.C. back to Capitan, New Mexico, where his home was, to be buried. And there was rumors flying around that some folks were intending on coming in and digging him up to sell bits and pieces of him as memorabilia. And so they had to bring him in, and it was like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning when he was brought in and buried. And this big stone was placed on his grave so he could not be dug up as easily. It was kind of a sad story that there was folks out there that wanted to dig up a Smokey Bear. But neat thing to go and see. It was a lot of fun.